What were my biggest takeaways from the Big Brother Broveal before we even get to the cast? Answer. It gave us a lot more than just our first look at the cast. We got a closer look at the house, a little more on the time trip theme for the season, and maybe even our first clue that more house guests are still to come. Let's chat about it. Hey everybody, my name is Danielle and this is Chatter Out Loud. Today I'm breaking down the inaugural BB28 Broveal that premiered on YouTube. We finally met the first 14 house guests, got a guided tour of the Big Brother house from Julie Chen, and if you were paying close attention, there were a few details that really stood out to me before we even got to the cast. My first takeaways. All right. First, I really enjoyed getting a closer look at the BB house. It wasn't a quick glimpse. Julie actually walked us through the space, and I found myself paying attention to the little details because, as we know, the house often becomes a character in the game. It confirmed the time trip theme. There was one bedroom she couldn't show us as the door was locked. And I thought, I wonder how that'll play out in the game later on. I just can't wait to see what unfolds there. Second, one phrase kept coming up over and over again: hero versus villain. Almost every house guest described themselves as one or the other. At least they described themselves as a hero or villain in the context of how they plan to play the game. Now, whether that's just a fun Broveal theme, something that they'll be asking moving forward, or if it's a clue about where the season is headed, I'm definitely going to keep an eye out for that. And finally, we only met 14 house guests today. That immediately caught my attention because it leaves room for more. There have already been rumors about returning players, and after today's Broveal, those rumors feel a little more plausible to me. We'll have to wait and see, but that's definitely something we're all going to be watching for, right? All right. So, real quick, if you're enjoying this video, I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you know when I post another BB28 video. I'd also love to have you be part of the conversation because I have a feeling we're going to be talking and chatting a lot about what's going on this season. So, thanks so much for being here. Your presence is very much appreciated. With that out of the way, let's get into the cast because I definitely have some first impressions. Oh, wait a minute. I have my notes in front of me. Before I dive into each house guest, I have to get this out of the way. And I don't know if anyone else does this, but my Big Brother brain couldn't help it. As I watched the Broveal, I immediately started getting a few previous player vibes. Now, I'm not saying these house guests are going to be playing the same game. There's not enough information or data for that type of analysis yet. This is strictly based on first impressions, their look, their cadence, or just the overall vibe from their intro reels. And here's what I mean. Barrett gave me Vince from BB27 vibes, and it's 100% because of the thick mustache. Melody immediately reminded me of Kat from BB27. Her resemblance is uncanny. Yash gave me Brent from BB23 vibes, specifically his self-love, if you know what I'm saying. Camu reminded me of Paul from BB18 and BB19, and it's more so the beard and his overall aesthetic. And then Mallory, she immediately made me think of Kelly from BB27. And that's where the comparison ends. Once they walk into the house, they get to write their own Big Brother story. They get to play their own game and earn our love as BB fans on their own merit, right? I just had to mention those comparisons or the vibes I got. And was it just me or did you see the same? And or do you have any other comparisons that you notice? Let me know in a comment. Okay, now with all of that out of the way, let's get into the cast because I definitely have some thoughts. I made a note that we only met 14 house guests today. There have been rumors about returning players, and I've also heard speculation about crossover players from other reality shows like Survivor. And while we didn't get anyone from Survivor today, we did get someone from RuPaul's Drag Race, which definitely adds an interesting dynamic. It'll be interesting to see the rest of the cast revealed and if any other players are coming from other shows. All right, the cast. Starting with Ashley. Ashley was actually pretty easy for me to read, at least based on this first impression. The very first thing she said was that she's an oversharer. And immediately I thought, uh-oh, red flag. If you watch my preseason videos, you already know oversharing is one of my biggest Big Brother red flags. Information is power in this game, and sometimes the hardest thing to do is to keep it to yourself. She also came across as very social, very outgoing. I could absolutely see her building relationships early, so I'm interested to see how that works in the house for her. One thing that caught my attention was when she talked about having morals. I didn't catch it all, but I did hear the word morals. And I thought, I'm curious to see what that actually looks like inside the Big Brother house because, as you all are aware, the game has a way of testing everybody's principles. And did anybody else notice how much she talked? Like the words per minute count? I found myself wondering if she listens just as much as she talks. That's something I'll definitely be watching for. She also says she thinks she can sit on information if she hears something about herself. That made me laugh because I'm not buying that for 1 second. I think she might have a hard time keeping information to herself, and I definitely think she'll have a hard time sitting on information if she hears something about herself. Barrett. Barrett was one of the more interesting introductions for me. First of all, he's a Jumbotron engineer, and I just thought that was a pretty cool occupation. He also seems like a genuine Big Brother fan, and I always enjoy seeing super fans get the opportunity to play. And I'm thinking that's maybe why I got those Vince vibes. Then he said he'd flirt with the wall, the hammock, pretty much anything. And I just thought that was funny. But it also made me wonder if he's already planning for a showmance or if that's just his personality. Either way, Barrett is definitely someone I'll be keeping an eye on, and I could see him surprising people. All right, Chuck. Chuck with no C. The moment his reel started, it felt like the energy in the Broveal shifted. And maybe it was the music, maybe it was his personality, but everything just got bigger, got louder, more animated. He talks with his hands, he has a lot of energy, and he definitely knows how to command your attention. One thing I really appreciated was his honesty. He admitted he's more of a casual Big Brother viewer, and I actually respect that. At least we know where he's coming from when we begin to see his gameplay. Now, I'll be paying close attention to his gameplay because we've seen casual viewers have very different experiences in the Big Brother house. I'm just hoping we don't get another Keanu situation. Another comment that caught my attention was when he said he loves to be liked, but it wouldn't ruin his day if people didn't like him. And I thought that was an interesting way to put it. And it immediately made me wonder how much he really understands the social side of Big Brother. One strategy I did like was his plan to use his barbering skills to connect with the guys in the house. I actually thought that was smart. It's practical. It gives people a reason to spend time with him. And that's exactly how relationships start in Big Brother. So overall, Chuck with no C left me with a lot of questions, and that's not a bad thing. He's definitely someone I'll be watching once the live feeds start. Drew. Drew reminded me of the young guy I used to watch when he did Big Brother reviews. The hair, his facial expression, and his cadence and how he spoke. I had to look twice. I cracked up when he said he just graduated from college, summa cum laude. And then he said, I really don't know what that is, but I just thought I said, how cute is he? I thought he came across genuine without trying too hard. And I have a feeling he's going to give us some really entertaining moments this season. Overall, like I said, he came across really genuine and really likable. And I can see myself rooting for him early on. Haley. Haley. And I mean this respectfully. I was surprised when she said she was 29. She just comes across as older to me. And maybe it's her demeanor. But if you had asked me to guess her age, 29 wouldn't have been my answer. She describes herself as bubbly, but based on her introduction, I didn't really get that at all. Um, now it's only a first impression, so that could change once we see her in the house and on the live feeds. But right now, she comes across as a little more serious, and maybe even a bit difficult to connect with. And my concern for her in the game is that if the other house guests gets this same impression, she could have a hard time building those early social connections that I feel that are important during that first week in the game. You know what I'm saying? Jason. Jason definitely brought the energy. You could tell right away he was comfortable in front of the camera, which makes sense given his background on RuPaul's Drag Race twice. One comment that caught my attention was when he said he watches the Big Brother live feeds when he's bored. And I thought, wait a minute. As a live feeder, we're not watching because we're bored. That choice of words just made me chuckle. He also mentioned his placements on RuPaul's Drag Race and joked that maybe this time he'd win the grand prize because of the 6 zeros. He was making a connection between the numbers, numerology, right? This he keeps placing 6, and so he thought that the 6 zeros mean he would win the Big Brother prize. The flaw in that logic is that they're only playing for 5 zeros this season. The prize is $750,000. But I appreciated the optimism. The part that really interested me, though, was when he said he's taking a page from Taylor Hale's playbook by confronting people and working through conflict. Now, I interpreted Taylor's game a little differently, but that's okay because this isn't about Taylor, it's Jason's season, right? And I'm much more interested in seeing how he applies that philosophy to his own game. Overall, Jason, he left me curious. He has a lot of personality. He's very excited about growing chest hair. He clearly knows how to entertain, and I'm interested to see how that all translates inside that Big Brother house. Camel. He is an MMA coach, and my very first impression was that he's laid back. He just has this calm, easygoing presence about him. And I think that could serve him really well inside the Big Brother house, especially early in the game. I'll definitely be watching his social game because I could see him building relationships pretty naturally. Another thing he plans to do is to keep parts of his background to himself. We've heard a few house guests talk about hiding parts of their identity, and I actually think that can be smart strategy if it's managed well. But the moment that really stood out to me was when he said, "My first love is winning." I like that. It told me he's competitive, he knows why he's there, and he's not afraid to say it or play, right? I also thought it was interesting when he said he gets paid to fight in his career, but inside the Big Brother house, he doesn't plan to fight if he's not getting paid. Honestly, I think that's a pretty good approach because not every battle is worth fighting in this game. Overall, Camel came across as really likable, and based on my first impression, I can definitely see myself rooting for him this season. Latrice, aka Lala. Immediately, she caught my attention because I believe she's the oldest house guest we've met so far. The moment she said, "I've lived some life, baby," I smiled. I loved it. I just loved her energy. I love that line. She comes across as young at heart, energetic, and very social. Then you add in the bodybuilding background she mentioned. I'm now really interested to see how she performs in competitions. Another thing that surprised me was learning she was part of Sounds of Blackness, right? The popular songs are Hold On. Oh, I don't want to sing. But Hold On, Change is Coming. And then As Long as You Keep Your Head to the Sky. That's another popular song. I definitely wasn't expecting that. And then finding out she's related to Cool from Cool in the Gang. And I know we all know, celebrate good times. Come on. And that was just another surprise. So the interesting part is she plans to keep those connections to herself. And honestly, I think that's the right move. Why give people information they don't need right away? Overall, Lala made a really positive first impression on me, and I'm looking forward to seeing how her life experience translates inside the Big Brother house. Lyric the lawyer. My first impression wasn't lawyer. She actually came across as really charming and surprisingly funny. She even said she likes to think she's funny. And I'm just looking forward to seeing more of that personality once the live feeds are on. She's also very competitive. And I think that's going to be interesting to watch because she has this youthful, approachable personality that could just cause people to underestimate her. And I think that'll work well in her favor. We were all surprised to learn that her dad was a pop star in the 80s, and she's planning to reveal that information later in the game. I actually think that's a smart strategy. Remember how well that worked for Frankie when he shared who his sister was. So we'll have to see how that plays out for her. I have a feeling she's going to get plenty of attention in the house. She's a pretty girl. Now, whether the attention comes from her personality or because of her personality or because she's naturally charming, we'll have to wait and see. Lyric has a lot more going on than her first impression lets on, and that's exactly why I'm interested to see how she plays. Mallory. Mallory was interesting because she said people often assume she's ditzy or an airhead. And honestly, I didn't get that at all. What I saw was someone who seemed confident, outgoing, and very aware of how other people perceive her. Then we find out she's a rocket scientist. So it's safe to say she's not an airhead. Like several other house guests, she plans to hide her occupation because she wants people to underestimate her. I actually think that could work in her favor because being underestimated can be a real advantage in the Big Brother game. One comment that caught my attention was when she admitted she has a temper. I'm definitely filing that one away because this game has a way of testing everyone's patience. And I hope she manages her temper well. And then she said she wasn't interested in a showmance unless everyone became obsessed with her. And that just made me chuckle. That showed a little bit of personality she has. Melody. She completely distracted me because she reminded me so much of Kat from last season. Honestly, I had to go back and rewatch her reel because all I could see was Kat. And did anybody else see that or get that? One thing that did stand out was that she basically says she's planning to use her looks as part of her strategy. So clearly she knows she's attractive and she's not shy about leaning into that. Now, could that work for her? Sure. We've seen players use charm, confidence, and flirting to get information or build relationships. But after her reel, I feel like I was left with an image and not a story. I understood the image she wanted to project. I just didn't come away feeling like I learned much about who Melody is beyond that strategy. And that's kind of where my notes stop. I kept watching for another layer and it just never came. Well, she did have nunchucks in her reel, but I don't remember her mentioning them. Am I wrong about that? I don't know. That's Melody. Rome. Honestly, he was kind of forgettable to me. I actually thought I'd be drawn in because he's a pickleball coach. I thought, okay, this could be interesting. But I don't know. I just kind of lost interest. Then we find out Rome is actually a nickname and his real name is Jack. Right? Whatever. Clearly, production saw something in him because he did make the show. He made the cast. So maybe there's a side of Rome we just haven't seen yet. But right now, Rome just didn't leave me with wanting to know more. I'm sorry. Taylor, another pretty young lady. I have to admit, when I heard the name Taylor, my Big Brother brain immediately went to Taylor Hale. I don't think I can help it, you guys. But after watching her reel, I reminded myself this is a completely different player and she deserves the chance to write her own Big Brother story and her chance for Big Brother fans to love her. One moment that absolutely cracked me up was when she says she's still figuring out how she'd handle controversy, so she's reading a book on it. I thought that was cute. And I don't know why, but I just found her to be hilarious. More importantly, though, I thought her reel felt honest. It felt authentic. She wasn't pretending to have all the answers or act like she'd already mastered Big Brother. Another thing that caught my attention was the strategy she shared. Now, I may have to go back and listen again because I want to make sure I understood it correctly. But she talked about creating a 3-part team, one over floaters and 2 over tethered teams, and having one person from each of those teams report back to her. I actually thought that was interesting. Now, will it work? I don't know. We have no idea. But that's all part of Big Brother. I just appreciated that she came in with something she'd clearly thought about instead of giving one of those canned answers we hear everyone say, like, I'm just going to be myself and all this stuff. So I just appreciated that she came in with thought, right? She came in with thinking about a strategy of how to play the game. And it wasn't just a canned answer. Between managing controversy and her admitting she's still working on it, reading a book on how to manage conflict, her Big B blowout strategy. Oh, that was the name of her strategy. She called it the Big B blowout strategy. And how genuine she came across. I think Taylor is one of those house guests I'm most interested in watching. I find her to be likable too. I also think her being a counselor could enhance her gameplay. I can't wait to see her on the feeds. And last, but certainly not least, Yash. Yash's intro gave me one overwhelming impression: confidence. And if I'm being more specific, maybe even a little arrogance. His reel felt very much like a performance, right? He was putting on, almost like he was creating a character he thought everyone would want to watch, It didn't land for me. What did catch my attention was, one, he's a casual viewer and binged before heading into the BB house, which has the potential of Keanu gameplay rearing its head. And two, his strategy. He's a financial analyst, but he already thought about disguising his occupation because he doesn't want the other house guests to immediately see him as strategic. And I guess I get it. Being a financial analyst isn't the most dangerous occupation, but I can see how people could translate that into him thinking strategically, you know. His thought process behind that in terms of disguising his occupation, that tells me he's thinking about the game before he even walks through the front door. And I actually like that. The part I'm still unsure about is whether the confidence we saw is genuine confidence or if it's overconfidence. I mean, the popping of the collar, the brushing the shoulders off, and all that, whatever. Right now, he definitely comes across as someone who's very aware of the image he projects. So I'm a little torn on Yash. My first impression wasn't my favorite for him, but his strategic thinking makes me think he could surprise me once the game starts. So, I'll say this. Yash may have talked me out of liking his personality, but he talked me into being interested in his game. So I'm not going to write him off just yet. Now, I could be completely wrong about any or all of this, but that's my read for now. Ask me again after a week of live feeds. And that's one of the things I love most about Big Brother. We all have our first impressions. It's all part of the fun. Sometimes we get it right, and then the live feeds prove us wrong. So whether you agree with my takes or completely disagree, we'll find out together once the game starts. And now I want to hear from you. What do you think of the Houseguests Unveiled today? I'd also be interested in knowing your opinion about the whole Broveal on YouTube today. And by the way, is Broveal a combination of brother and reveal? Like, I feel like no one explained that. So if you have insight, let me know. I'd appreciate it. I kind of liked the Broveal. I felt like it added a layer of fandom and created suspense and excitement, and I liked it. So what say you? And that's all I have. Now, if you made it all the way to the end, leave me a eyes emoji in the comments. No explanation needed. I'll know exactly what it means. All right. Eyes emoji. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.